This is me. This is my beloved wife, Sylvia. This is Sylvia's idea of sailing. This is my dream of sailing and my hope of circumnavigating the globe as a retirement project in 2029. This is Sylvia's reaction to that idea.
What? You got a quest?
I am on a 6-year quest to convince Sylvia that a circumnavigation is a wonderful adventure, but the clock is ticking, so join me as I search for the perfect yacht that Sylvia will love, and get all your ladies to subscribe and cheer Sylvia on in the comments. Welcome back to Naval Gazing at Camp David. This week we're heading back to Les Herbiers and the yards of Jeanneau for a tour of their wonderful flagship. This week's guest yacht, the Jeanneau 65. Just to answer the question, have I run out of catamarans? No, I certainly have not. We have plenty of catamarans coming now and in the future. What I am doing is keeping an open mind to just about anything that will get me successfully on my circumnavigation. I know that probably the highest probability is a catamaran, but I'm not averse to looking at monohulls, especially given the fact that when I go to buy one, I could probably pick up a 2 to 3 year old one for much cheaper than an equivalent catamaran. The other thing that I am going to look at is, hold on to your hats, trawlers and long-distance power cats such as the Long Reach. We will be having a look at those, and I will be tapping into your expertise to do some kind of a comparative to see what the economics of a very efficient trawler is versus a true sailboat for a 5-year excursion. Anyways, getting on with today, we are going to, number 1, review this yacht's specifications, pricing, and layout against 3 similar new vessels. 2, do a full tour asking what would Sylvia say. 3, naval gaze and innovation and or adjustment that might make life aboard easier. 4, have a look at the used market for 3 to 5 year old pre-owned comparables. And 5, give it a Dave score and compare the results with all our previously reviewed yachts. All this fun will be sandwiched between a wine and a work of art of the same region as the guest yacht in an effort to capture the culture and people who gave birth to these wonderful vessels. Waves, wine, art, and ideas. What a civilized way to spend 30 minutes. So let's get going. From high above Vancouver, we head east across the continent and the Atlantic to the western shores of France and La Rochelle, the home of last week's guest boat, the Fountain Peugeot Tana 47. From here, we head north to the Jeanneau yards and this week's guest yacht, the Jeanneau Yacht 65, flagship of the line. Finally, we head back south to this week's wine pairing at the vineyards of Chateau Cilorn Winery. Chateau Cilorn Bordeaux Superior Red Blend. Chateau Cilorn Winery is a well-known winery located in the Bordeaux region of France. The winery has a long and rich history dating back to the 18th century when it was founded by a French merchant named Louis Cilorn. Over the years, the winery has passed through the hands of several owners, each contributing to its growth and success. In the early 20th century, the winery passed into the hands of a wealthy Bordeaux family who modernized the vineyards and updated the winemaking techniques. Today, Chateau Cilorn Winery is known for its exquisite wines and is a popular destination for wine lovers around the world. The vinification, traditional, is carried out in vats with thermoregulation to optimize fermentation and maceration. After crushing, the wine ages in stainless steel vats for 12 months. Chateau Cilorn Bordeaux Superior Red Blend is a complex and well-balanced wine with deep and intense aromas of red and black fruit. The palate is full-bodied and robust with flavors of blackcurrant, cherry, and vanilla, accompanied by silky tannins and a long, smooth finish. This wine is an excellent representation of the exceptional quality of Bordeaux blends. Chateau Cilorn won several awards for its Bordeaux Superior Red Blend, including the gold medal at the Concours de Bordeaux Vin d'Aquitaine in 2019 and the silver medal at the Concours Mondial de Bruxelles in 2019. These accolades highlight the Chateau's commitment to producing top quality wines that are rich, elegant, and full of character. Chateau Cilorn Bordeaux Superior Red Blend is a wine that impresses both critics and wine lovers alike.
Oh, that's nice. Cheers. Let's go have a look at that boat.
Look at this beautiful yacht. Look at the new beautiful hardtop, the convertible hardtop they've got. The lines on this, especially in that signal blue, are absolutely spectacular. It has something of a raised saloon there, but not a full deck saloon. But the massive deck space that you've got on here, acres and acres of space to spread out on. The room in the cockpit has been enhanced to an extraordinary degree. They also have that very innovative dinghy garage, which spins the dinghy sideways, taking up less length in the hull area inside. The aft section there has a fantastic pop-up barbecue and kitchen area. You just saw there. There's a lovely area with carbon poles on the foredeck for mattresses under a nice shade. Just every line of this boat looks so pretty. It really does make me think twice about a monohull. Okay, let's look at our comparatives today. We're looking at the Jeanneau 65, the Dufour 61, the Jeanneau Yacht 60, the Beneteau Oceanus Yacht 60, and the Hylas 57. You can see their profiles, obviously the Jeanneau Yacht 65, the largest of the group, but not by much. The Dufour 61 is a significant vessel, both in beam and length. Looking at the actual upwind sail area, the leader here is the Dufour 61 at 170 square meters, followed closely by the Jeanneau Yacht 65 at 168 square meters. From there, we drop down not to the other larger boats, but to the smallest of the group, the Hylas 57 with its 152 square meters. Then next up is Beneteau's Oceanus Yacht 60 at 139 square meters, and the Jeanneau Yacht 60 at 131 square meters. Hopping onto the deck now, you can see the relative lengths here, just how big this Jeanneau Yacht 65 is. And I have to admit, when I got behind the helm of the Jeanneau Yacht 60, I felt surprisingly comfortable looking out over that vast deck. I really wasn't intimidated. I got behind the helm of the 65, and holy mackerel did I feel intimidated. It's not that much bigger, but it's that much bigger. You have acres of cockpit space. This defies any catamaran. It's absolutely huge. They've taken the helms right to the aft of the boat. There is a little sunning area, but of course, then after the helms, you have that fabulous lounge or beach. You got to call it a beach. That the access door to your dinghy garage goes down, and you literally have a beach on the water behind you there. Stretching out in front of you, you have acres of beautiful lounging and seating and dining area. And it's all protected by that fantastic convertible hardtop. You literally have coverage all the way back to the helms. If you had your clears down on either side, I don't think you'd need to put on your foulies to get back to the helm and drive this thing in bad weather. Then walking up the side decks, which are enormous, you get up to the foredeck, and holy mackerel, you could play tennis on the foredeck of this thing. And they do have the option of these fabulous carbon fiber poles and a lovely translucent sunshade that can go up there, and you drop down your sun lounger pads, and Bob's your uncle. You just have a fabulous day at the beach right there. So this thing is impressive, to say the least. Going over to the Dufour. Now, the interesting thing about the Dufour is look at the ways of that beam, how it transits all the way to the back. I walked past the aft of this Dufour at a marina somewhere in Greece and just stopped dead in my tracks. I couldn't believe it. Looked like a football field side to side. Absolutely extraordinary and intimidating. The cockpit area, nowhere near as vast as the 65, but you have full beam all the way to the aft. The foredeck, as you can see, is even bigger in flat space area than the 65, so it's ginormous. If we go over to the 60 here now, the cockpit, again, not quite as big as the 65, but it's a little deceptive because we're covering it all up with that fixed bimini and the front area there, the clears. So it feels almost as big as a 65. It's really quite remarkable. You don't have the same foredeck area, but you really do stretch out the headroom under the raised saloon roof there. The Beneteau Oceana 60, again, same architecture, almost more dramatic than the Dufour 61, taking that beam straight back, if not flaring a tad by the looks of it. The highly comfortable cockpit area. I really do love the split tables. I do not like a single table in the center. It makes me feel constricted. It makes the access through from the helm to the saloon. It just gives me a perception of restriction and inconvenience, whereas the split cockpit tables are outstanding. The Hylas 57, totally different design, far more oyster-esque, if you will. High sense of protection in the cockpit. Definite separation between helm stations and cockpit. This boat feels absolutely solid, is the only way I can put it. I really, really did like this. You should see the hardtop on this thing. You could probably plant a tank on top of it. This boat just feels tough. Okay, dropping down into the accommodations. The Yacht 65, ginormous. So you do have a chunk of it taken up by the dinghy garage. However, they've minimized that by a unique mechanical feature that spins the dinghy around sideways and slides it in. Starting aft, of course, you have this large full beam aft master berth, which is outstanding. Now, the thing that did surprise me, though, was as big as the Yacht 65 owner's suite is, it didn't feel that much bigger than the owner's suite in the 60, which has the fore-aft dinghy garage coming into the area of the master suite. I was really quite surprised. Now, they may have accomplished this by going with a slightly smaller bed, any number of things, but your perception is one of full beam, even though you have a chunk taken out for the dinghy garage. So I was expecting to be blown away when I walked into the 65 after the years of looking at the 64 and this being my first time on a 65. But I had just been on the 60 and I was shocked at how underwhelmed I was in the differences. So don't get me wrong, beautiful, big master suite, but not that much more extraordinary than the 60. Moving forward, you have a beautiful galley. Your area in the saloon itself, very comfortable, very nice. Again, I was surprised at how it didn't feel that much bigger than the 60. Yeah, it felt a little bit bigger, but not enough for me to go, I have to have this boat, not the 60. I think the architects of the 60 have learned a lot of different lessons in how to create perception of space, not the least of which is the full beam forward galley, which I think draws your eye and your sense of volume forward even further, and maybe a little deceptive, but it's all in perception, and that's what you want to feel. As you go forward then into the two guest suites at the forward section of the 65, they're very comfortable. I am not a fan of the split forward guest suites. Y'all know that. I think they're any monohull between 50 and 70 feet should lead with an owner's version that is one of three, which we'll look at. As we go over to the Dufour 61, this is one area where I was surprised. The beam on the Dufour, even though it doesn't look that much here, feels, the perception inside is enormous, absolutely enormous. You sit on that L-shaped settee and you look across, and it just seems to go on forever. It feels bigger than the 60. It feels bigger than the 65. And maybe it is when you're sitting on that L-shaped settee and looking over to the starboard side, out of the corner of your left eye, you see these massive skylights that sit over top the full beam galley. I mean, they're just ginormous. And I think they give the perception of unending space in this thing. They were very, very impressive. The forward master suite, it's okay. It's not a full walk around. It's comfortable. Not my favorite. I prefer a full beam aft, or a full beam aft plus a full beam forward for a guest suite. Other than that, the galley was fantastic. The aft cabins, because you have so much headroom, even though they're split aft, and I feel it's a waste of beam, they did feel very, very spacious because of the massive headroom. You actually step down, and you could have a basketball player sleeping back there. Over to the 60, we already talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I just think it's a beautiful layout. That aft master, allowing still for a fore-aft dinghy garage, which I prefer because it's just a lot easier to pull the dinghy in and out. They've done a wonderful job with the saloon and the full beam galley forward, giving a sense of space to that whole saloon area. Don't like the split forward cabins, but we'll investigate that later. Beneteau Oceania 60, gotta say right out of the gate, just not a fan. I think somebody's trying too hard to become different. Not only do you have a forward master suite, but they flipped the bed around. It's sort of a walk around, but not really, because on the starboard side there, that's a ledge that pops up, so you'd be crawling along that side. I just think it's trying too hard. It doesn't do it for me at all. The rest of it's quite comfortable and nice. Again, not a big fan of the aft split cabins. So here it was like 2-3 strikes right there. The Hilux 57, oh my goodness. Now, I had the incredible honor of touring two of these in the same day, one completely finished, a second one with the owners themselves. It had not been fully commissioned. The mast hadn't been stepped, but wow, what a boat. And I was with Bill Dixon and his son Matt Dixon, the designers of this lovely vessel. And again, they don't try too hard. They just do what's right. And you got a full beam, beautiful aft master. You head up, you've got a lovely fore-aft galley. You have a beautiful, beautiful salon, lots of different seating areas, real sense of space. Then you head forward on the port side, you have a bunk room that, when you're not having guests in there, you can flip up the mattress and you've got a full work desk, a workbench right there. It converts automatically into a workbench. And then you go forward and you have a very generous forward, full walk-around V-berth. I mean, it's a perfect layout. I don't know why anybody keeps trying to reinvent this wheel. Getting into the numbers now as we head along the top line. So our Jeanneau Yacht 65 is admittedly the most expensive, but still at 1.655 million euro. It's a 65-foot sailing yacht. It's a mini super yacht. That's a great deal. Next up is going to be your Hilux 57 at 1.6. So this is a top tier manufacturer. Custom, real woods. Everything is done to an extreme, over-engineered. Like I said, this thing is built like a tank. So at 1.6, I think you're getting exceptional value there. Now, we get into the Dufour 61 at 1.3. And admittedly, this is a 63-foot yacht, but I was a little surprised it was at 1.3. I like the Dufour. I liked a lot in it. I didn't feel the finish was the same as the 65. And honestly, the best of this, other than the Hilux 57, was the Jeanneau Yacht 60 as far as the impression of fit, finish, and quality. The next one up is the Beneteau Oceana 60 at 914. Just not a fan. If that's your gig, that weird layout, great. It's a decent value. The Jeanneau Yacht 60 at 8597, that's a great value because that Jeanneau Yacht 60 feels as big as the Jeanneau Yacht 65 in so many ways and yet does not feel intimidating when you're behind the helm. Heading down then into the length overall, as you know, the names don't always match up with the numbers. So your Jeanneau Yacht 65 is actually 67 foot. Your Dufour 61 is 63. Your Beneteau 60 is actually 62. Your Jeanneau Yacht 60 is actually 60. And your Hilux 57 is actually 59 feet. As we look at the beam here, the beamiest one is, in fact, the Dufour 61 at 18 feet. Now, it's tied with the 65. I say it's the beamiest, I guess, relatively speaking. So they're both 18 foot. The thing about the Dufour is it carries that 18 foot all the way to the aft. The next one up is going to be the Beneteau Oceanus Yacht 60 at 17.5. And as you saw from the overhead layout, that's probably at the extreme aft. That thing just almost seems to flare. The next one up is going to be the Jeanneau Yacht 60, but just by a hair. So 17.1 versus the Hilux at 17. So really, you know, your Jeanneau Yacht 60 and your Hilux 57 dimensions are really, really close. 60 versus 59.5 and 17.1 versus 17. As we go to draft here, the least draft on these is the Hilux at 6.5 feet, which really will let you into some very nice anchorages. The next closest is a full 2 feet deeper, and that is the Jeanneau Yacht 60 and the Beneteau Yacht 60, both at 8.3. And then you hop up to 9.1 on the Dufour 61 and 9.75 on the Jeanneau Yacht 60. So let's skip down now to capacities. So as we look at this, the largest capacity is the Hilux 57, which, you know, given its incredible durability and focus on blue water cruising, you can just feel it and sense it. Doesn't surprise me. So basically 1,100 liters and 1,000 liters of fuel and water respectively. From there, we go to the Jeanneau Yacht 65 at 825 and 1,000. And from there, it's the Dufour 61 at 780 and 880. Then the Beneteau Oceanus Yacht 60 at 500 and 860. And finally, the Jeanneau Yacht 60 at 318 in fuel and 380 in water. Getting into some of the more technical and performance indicators, we're looking at hull, and the leader here absolutely is a Hilux 57. No surprise. Vacuum-infused vinyl ester resin hull with closed cell form. The sub-tray and structural bulkheads are then glassed into the hull before the yacht leaves the mold. So by far, that is the beast. Now, looking at sail area to displacement, which is indicative of power. The leader here is the Dufour 61. I guess it's not a big surprise given length and sail area that we saw there. It's at 20.7. Now, one caveat here. The Dufour did not list a self-tacking jib. So this is with its full genoa. My guess is that it will end up, if you had the self-tacking jib, the same measure as we have on the Jeanneau Yacht 60, the Beneteau Oceanus Yacht 60, that those two would exceed the Dufour 61. They're sitting at the Beneteau at 18.2 and the Jeanneau Yacht 60 at 18. Then you got the Jeanneau Yacht 65 at 17.7 and the Hylas at 17.5. Popping down now to displacement to hull length at the waterline, which is indicative of heaviness. Here the lowest number wins, and it's your Beneteau Oceanus Yacht 60 at 114.9. With then the Jeanneau Yacht 60 following, the Dufour 61, the Hylas 57, and then finally the Jeanneau Yacht 65 at 155.3. Comfort ratio. We're looking at that, just indicative of how comfortable these yachts would be in heavy seas. And the clear winner is the Hylas 57 at 35.6. Now, sorry, it's not the clear winner. The 65, the Jeanneau Yacht 65 is the winner at 35.7, but it is another 7 feet longer. So of the bunch that are comparable, the Hylas Yacht 57 would have the best comfort ratio at 35.6 by quite a margin, I might say. The closest one would be the Dufour 61 at 27.5. Looking down now at hull speed, the greatest hull speed here among the comparable lengths is the Dufour 61 at 10.2. Not surprising. A hull speed is based on generally hull length. Everything is pretty much comparable. Okay, hopping on board. What would Sylvia say to the Jeanneau Yacht 65? Well, I think Sylvia would enjoy the Jeanneau Yacht 65, especially if we're downwind sailing and we're not heeling. I mean, it really is a mini super yacht. Looking at the aft here, you can see the sheer expanse of the aft beach, the lovely stairs that fold out, that very unique compartment for your dinghy garage. They don't show the actual frame system that pulls the dinghy up and spins it around and slides it back. But you can see that online. Heading up into the cockpit itself, you've got lovely, easy access to your side decks, to your weather decks there. Your winches are all at hand. All your lines come back. You have full bow, stern thrusters, great space under the aft seats, which also tilt up to create a beautiful reclining lounge into the cockpit. You've got a kitchen at the back here with the pop-up grill and sink as we had on the other one. And everything is so clear as far as walking through, walking to the sides. Big winches. You can see there we've got an 80, and I can't quite read what that one is. Somebody asked for me to look at winch sizes here, so I've tried to zoom in on them on these series of tours. You can see all your jammers here, easy access, line lockers below those aft seats, so you don't have spaghetti in your cockpit. Again, the sides of your aft kitchen tilt up to create a lovely lounger, and there's clear access right up the weather decks there. Now, one thing, this model didn't have the hardtop, but it is an option with the convertible slider, which I really, really love. I found it even more convenient than this soft bimini, because the soft bimini goes out further to the sides. With the hardtop, I was able to stand at the helm and just lean slightly to the side and look fully up the side of the boat, fully up, and see all my sails and my trim. It was just literally the perfect beam on that beautiful hardtop. Moving up the side decks here, you can just see. I mean, look at the size and the space you've got. There are those lovely factory lounger pads, and you can again get the optional carbon stanchions with the translucent shade that'll go over these. You've even got embedded cup holders. I mean, again, you can do your calisthenics up on the front deck here. You have so much space. Beautiful, large flush hatches. Now let's get into a little bit of navel gazing here. This is something that I suggested a while back, and I saw it on the Hylas 57. The owner had spec'd these in. why aren't there drop-down dolphin seats? More to the point, why aren't there drop-down loungers? Similar to this that I saw on one of the catamarans, but you could integrate that into the hard, if you had hard lifelines on the side. I think it's a fabulous option. Here we have, looking forward now, we've got the beautiful power furlers on the head sails here. I mean, just look back on this thing. It's just so huge. It is awe-inspiring. But again, the funny thing is, again, design on these boats is advancing so quickly, not only in the outside and for performance, but for luxury and comfort and sense of space inside. I really didn't feel this was that much bigger inside than the 60 was sitting beside it there on the port side. And yet, this is a much bigger boat on the outside. You can see these very nice drop-down boarding ladders that are embedded. I wish they would go with hard lifelines. It should at least be an option selectable with the embedded drop-down dolphin seats and loungers up at the bow area. Again, heading into this cockpit, look at the size of this thing. So one of these lovely split tables is down, turned into a lounger. One of them is up. Let's take a walk now down into the salon. So I'm not a fan of bleached oak. At least I wasn't. Not sure whether it's peer pressure or systematic desensitization, but I am starting to enjoy it a lot more. But again, you can look around here, and if you go back to the 60 and have a look at my pan around the 60s saloon, you might get a sense of what I feel, although it's impossible to get a sense of space from videos as much as we try. It's not that bigger a feel than the 60. Now, maybe the thing is, this is a fore-aft kitchen, whereas the galley on the 60 is right here, going full beam on the width, which extends your sense of space in the salon area, whereas the side fore-aft galley does not, because it's hidden down the side beside the engine compartment. Now, for a guest bathroom, I mean, what can you say? This is absolutely outstanding. Not only that, you do have access into the forepeak through one of these heads, and I love that ability to have interior access to the forepeak. Unfortunately, when you go with the forward master, you lose that access because you've got countertops and stuff, and it just blocks any possibility. But, you know, for a guest suite, this is awesome. I so much prefer, I would have two master stateroom layout simply because I don't want that many people on my boat. I don't need that many berths. And if I am having a guest on, I want them to have the Cadillac experience. So I'm not going to give them my berth, so I'd like the guest berth to be there. And besides, in Vancouver, when I retire and get my dream condo down at Cole Harbour, I'm not going to have more than 2 bedrooms. I'll be lucky if I have 2 bedrooms and a den. Probably won't. So again, here's your sail locker access. And in this case, they've converted it to what I would call a pretty darn luxurious crew quarter. Again, I wouldn't do this. I would keep this as storage. You got full access up and out from here. And I think it would be brilliant to have a wonderful closet space here for all of Sylvia's gowns for those casino nights in those exotic spots we're going to have. It's my imaginary lifestyle, so I'll do what I want. Okay, heading forward into the saloon. Again, fabulous finish. You've got lovely trim and molding on the ceiling that also doubles as a handhold, also doubles as hiding indirect lighting. Indirect lighting everywhere. They've done a wonderful job. Indirect lighting is a cheap way of gaining massive sense of luxury and sophistication. I just think manufacturers should just go berserk on it. And looking at all your storage space here in your galley. Now, back here, this is where I thought I would lose my mind as I walked into this owner's suite, and I didn't quite lose my mind. I guess just because I was expecting something dramatically different than the feeling of the 60. Here's your day head. Very comfortable. So let's, without further ado, hop in here. So I had seen video after video, and I just expected to be blown away, but I just wasn't. And I'm not sure if you saw it as we panned around. It doesn't feel that deep. It feels very wide, very beamy, but I got much of that same feel in the 60, even with the incursion of the dinghy garage. It's not that significantly different a feeling that would sway a buying decision, which I honestly thought it would, because this is something that would really sell Sylvia. Here's a sense of perspective with me sitting on that little settee. I mean, there's lots of space. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. It's just not as dramatic. Now, if they had those seascape windows that Oyster has, and I don't know why nobody is copying Oyster. It's not patented, guys, and it's just a brilliant idea. If you had those 3 seascape windows, it would make a massive difference to this aft owner's suite. Absolutely massive. At the very least, do the pseudo copy that Gunfleet did by putting in deeper windows, much deeper windows. Maybe stack them. Do something a little different if you really want to, or just liberate Oyster's idea because it's brilliant. Love the wine fridge. I think they should all have wine fridges. Obviously, my tour guide was very happy with himself here. So again, just a tremendous looking area here. Actually, that was not my tour guide. That was a gentleman that I had seen on YouTube, so I was commenting on his celebrity status. My tour guide here was the illustrious Scott from Fraser Yachts in Granville Island here in Vancouver. And Scott and I tend to meet anywhere except, it seems, Vancouver, whether it's Le Grand Mont or Miami or wherever we are. These are the only times we see each other, it seems. Anyways, he was very, very kind in getting me on board. Okay, let's look at some pre-owned comparables. As you recall, we are working with an assumed base plus 50% to get to our fully optioned out and equipped sail away. And in this case, that would take our price to 2.7 million USD. So our first comparable is going to be a 2018 Jeanneau 64. That's a 4-year-old boat, and we are looking at US dollar of 1.3 million versus a brand new one at 2.7. Now, my brand new one's going to have the hardtop, but I can probably find a hardtop because in the last years of the 64, they did offer an optional hardtop. I don't know what that thing would cost me, but at 1.3 million versus 2.7, I have $1.4 million, and I think I can find a hardtop and a hell of a lot of toys that'll do the job for me there. Plus, there's probably some toys that this owner has put on. I'm sorry, I'd go with the pre-owned on this one. Next up is the Beneteau Oceanus Yacht 62. Again, you can get a hardtop for this one. They're asking 1.2 million US. I am not a fan of the Beneteau Yacht 62 just because I don't like the chopping up the saloon area by having half of it dedicated to a galley, which I've got to stare at my dirty dishes on, from the other half where my saloon couches and loungers and settees are. I also am not a big fan of the forward owner's hull. Having said that, the interior of this boat was beautifully finished. I would say even nicer than its than the one that's come now, which is the Jeanneau Oceanus Yacht 60. And it did have a hardtop option. But so we're looking at 1.2 versus 2.7. Again, I got 1.5 million to play with. I'd have to go with the used boat. Next up, we are taking it up a notch. We're looking at a 2018 C&B 66. This is a 70-foot yacht. It is quite something. So we are looking here at US $2.1 million for a 4-year-old yacht with some toys. It is a bigger yacht, feels bigger in the interior as well. 2.7 versus 2.1, 4-year-old yacht, still very healthy, probably $100,000 worth of toys on it that I would need to buy. Yeah, again, I'd go with the used yacht on this one. Next up, we're going to one of my absolute favorites. We're looking at a 2019 Hansa 675. So, 3-year-old boat, 69 foot long. They're asking 1.6 versus 2.7. I got 1.1 million to play with. Now, the Hansa 675 is the only forward owner's suite that I have ever fallen in love with. It is extraordinary. And given that I'm the owner, that's great. The guest suites are, they're sacrificed to a degree, but they're not bad. The saloon is just epic. It is a literal football field. It may be getting too big just in case you're throwing around inside the thing. The hull windows are ginormous. It has an electric sunroof in the salon. It has, you can see here, all power furlers at the front. It has a hardtop with a convertible. There is absolutely no doubt if this thing is in good condition at 1.626 versus 2.7, I'm on this 3-year-old Hansa all day long. And now to the horror of all those monohull purists. We're in monohull Puritan purgatory, and we're looking at comparable multi-hulls. In this case, we are looking at multi-hulls that are 20% shorter because they're wider, and that's the only way you can do a reasonable comparable on comparable living space. You don't do foot for foot on a comparative between a monohull and a multi-hull. It's just not reasonable. You're getting much more usable space on the multi-hull platform. So we're looking at multi-hulls that are, in the 50 to 55 foot range here. Our first up is a 2019 Neil 51. So this, I would say, has nowhere near the fit and finish that the Jeanneau Yacht 65 has. Just got to be honest. It's a very unique yacht, and it will perform much better as far as if speed's what you're looking for, and certainly sit much flatter in a rolly anchorage, but you're not going to have the same sense of luxury that you do in the Jeanneau Yacht 65. So Jeanneau Yacht 65, we're looking at 2.7. This 3-year-old 51, we're looking at $1 million. $1.7 million can buy me a lot of upgrades in the interior. Sorry. Again, I would probably go with the Neil 51 and just do irrational things to the interior. Next up, we're looking at a 2021 Lagoon 52F, so the Flybridge. This is only a 1-year-old boat. We're looking at 1.3 versus 2.7. This is a heck of a boat with comparable fit and finish. I do the Lagoon 52F all the time. Next, we're into one of my absolute favorites. This is a 2019 Naughty Tech 542. Fit and finish of this is far and away better. You're looking at 1.35 versus 2.7. Sorry, I'd be on the Naughty Tech 542. Way more space, way more luxury, way more comfort. Next, we're looking at a 2018 Katana 53. So this is a 4-year-old boat. We're looking at 1.5 versus 2.7. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Katana. I think here, even though it's 1.5 versus 2.7, for my application, I would seriously look at the 65. Now we're into the Dave score. So how did she do? Well, she didn't do too bad at all. Let's look down here. We're looking at the Jeanneau at Solid 73 points, putting her in the company of, well, equivalent to the 60, which honestly, I would say the 60 would score the same or maybe even a little higher overall. But, you know, you're getting a little more space in the 65. Scores right there with in between a Leopard 50 and a Balance 442. Now, I was about to say I would put the Leopard 50 above these two, but in retrospect, I wouldn't. Or it'd be at least equivalent. Sorry, guys. It's so close. When you get down to a point, it's hard to say. But they're all great boats. Jeanneau 65. Interior elegance, 8 out of 10. Exterior elegance, 8 out of 10. Love some of the features in the exterior, especially with that hardtop. Interior elegance, 8 out of 10. Interior comfort, 8 out of 10. Exterior comfort, 8 out of 10. Just a fabulous, comfortable, versatile vessel. Quality, 7 out of 10. Definitely the upper end of the performance manufacturers. Performance, 5 out of 10. Of course, we're comparing these to catamarans and trimarans and such, so obviously Mount Hull's going to be around 5 out of 10. Lazy Sailor, 7 out of 10. Everything comes back. This probably should have been an 8 out of 10 when I think about it. You know, I got powerhead furlers. I've got fore and aft thrusters. Yeah, this should have been an 8 out of 10, popping this thing up to 74. Condo, definite 8 out of 10. Geek, 7 out of 10. And value for money, a solid 7 out of 10. Bringing us to 73 or 74, which probably it should be in a 74. For our Art of the Region pairing today, we're enjoying Claude Monet, Rocks at La Belle-Île, Port-Domois, 1886. Claude Monet is widely considered as one of the most important figures in the history of art. Born in 1840, Monet spent much of his childhood in Le Havre before moving to Paris in the early 1860s. His early works were heavily influenced by the realism of artists such as Gustave Courbet, but he soon developed his unique style, which would later become synonymous with Impressionism. Monet's most iconic works are the series of landscapes, water lilies, and Japanese bridges that he painted in his latter years. He continued to paint until his death in 1926, leaving behind a remarkable legacy and inspiring generations of artists. Claude Monet's painting, Rocks at Belle-Île, Port-Domois, is a testament to his love for nature and his mastery of impressionistic techniques. The painting depicts a rocky seascape on the Isle of Belle-Île, located off the coast of Brittany, France. Monet's use of light and color brings to life the rough textures of the rocks and the crashing waves of the sea. The vivid blue and green hues contrast with the warm tones of the rocks, creating a sense of movement and depth in the composition. Monet's loose brushstrokes and subtle variations of color capture the fleeting nature of light and weather, evoking a sense of the transience of life itself. Well, that's our wine, our beautiful yacht, and our wonderful painting this week. I do hope you've enjoyed all three. I hope it's inspired you. I hope we can keep our minds wide open to mono, catamaran, trimaran, and maybe even extended catamaran power. Who knows? Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.